going on, everybody? It is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com, at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and rarely Twitch. Again, I'm Moose at CFB_Moose on Twitter, alongside Brian at BrianJesterFF on Twitter. We're going to be here breaking down the PGA DFS on DraftKings and FanDuel, answering your questions live if you have them. But what's up, Brian? How's it going?
What's up, Moose? I'm doing good. We're back to a cut event after last week's event, and it's been a hard accomplishment. This is my next goal to tackle is PGA DFS. I've won the big scores in every other sport, gotten close in PGA, so I've been grinding every single week now, trying to hit that next big score.
That sounds terrifying, to say the least. It's like, all right, I've beaten all the bosses. You've gotten through levels 1 through 7 in a video game. You're reaching the final boss. Who knew it'd be a PGA GPP? But that's why we're here. We're going to kick it for about 30 minutes or so. So again, if you guys have questions, guys and gals have questions, again, we're here. Brian is a 150 max PGA player. I know we just said he hasn't won a GPP, but he is very sharp. We're also reading the Daily Plug, which you can check at OccupyFantasy.com, written by Nero Mata, who's a top 75 DFS player, according to the RotoGrinders rankings, and absolutely fantastic. Brian, I know, I just want to say, I know it's our own website, but the PGA Plug is definitely very, very valuable.
Oh, man. I mean, if you guys haven't listened to the interview with Nero Mata, it's on our YouTube channel here. It's in podcast apps. After he won the 200K in NBA DFS, super sharp guy. In fact, after we get off stream here, I'm going to have a little strategy discussion, a little session with him talking about this PGA slate. It's, again, biased, but it's one of the better PGA articles out there. And he does a great job of not just, giving his top plays, but as we'll talk about here in a second, the best lineup strategies for each event, how to modify the Occupy preferred GPP approach. And then breaking down the betting market moves, which I know is always important for every sport, but I think especially so in PGA.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that it's saying that, it's a little bit different, whereas, a sport where we can look at line moves across different teams and stuff like that. But in PGA, there's really just one big futures market that you look for. So that's how we can take advantage of that as well. But let's jump into it. I know, Brian, he said that this is a invitational event. There's only 123 golfers, which means it's going to be a unique lineup strategy. So let's jump over to Nero Mata's lineup strategy section. And because normally we talk about we want a 2-2-2. 2 high-owned guys, 2 medium guys, 2 guys lower than 5%. But that takes a little bit different this time. If you want to break that down a little bit.
Yeah, so when we have these large events, unlike this week, 140, 150, 160 golfers, that's what makes PGA so tough, is the fact that we have so many guys to choose from, and so many of these, not everyone can be owned, and there's a reason every single week we see multiple sub 5% golfers in the winning lineup, in the optimal lineup even. And when we have those types of weeks, that's why we want to get a minimum of 2 of those guys in our lineups. But on a week like this, where there are less realistic options to put into our lineups, we really can't just jam in 2 5% owned guys without thinking about it. And as Nero Mata points out in this lineup strategy section for this Daily Plug, if we look at last year's GPP for this event, similar invitational, we see that's a little bit of a modified approach where the winning lineup didn't have any sub 5% guys. They had Patrick Rogers, who was around 5% owned. But really, the modified construction this week is 2 high-owned golfers and 4 sub 10% golfers, which it's kind of the same concept. And Moose is the same for MMA as well. Minimize your exposure to high-owned guys, maximum 2 per lineup. But now we just want to supplement that with some 5 to 10% owned guys, maybe some 5% owned guys, but 3 to 4 to 5 sub 10% guys. And, that may seem like a daunting task when we have line moves in the plug and the model. It's kind of easy to pinpoint those guys who fit that criteria.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of line moves, another part of the Daily Plug is we like to look at line moves, specifically at Pinnacle Sports. And Nero Mata posts his updates every so often. Also posts some in the Discord as well. OccupyFantasy.com/Discord is where you can learn more information about the Discord. I see Ken in the chat. What's up, Ken? Glad you're here. And if we look at him, not Ken, but the updates, the Pinnacle Steam moves, you're looking at some of these players where this is the percentage of their line moves since opening. You have Norlander at 36%, Todd 30%, Wallace 28%, Norin, Fleetwood, Will, and Francisco 20+%. And this looks like a little bit different. Like normally we only see a handful of guys and 20+%, but on this, how are you handling this where you see basically a quarter of the field at 10 plus?
It's kind of wild. And as Niramata points out just a little bit below this section where he says, the sharp bettors or whatever groups are betting this kind of feel that it is a wide open event. And for me, I look to the line moves a lot for my leverage plays. And reading Niramata's lineup strategy section for this event, trying to get a bunch of sub 10% guys and trying to get leverage on those guys in my GPP lineups, to see this many options with their line move is music to my ears. It fits the strategy perfectly this week because sometimes we'll get some weeks where we, like you said, 4 or 5 golfers that get the line move, and a lot of times they're pretty high owned. Mm-hmm. But this list that you just showed, 20 some golfers, a lot of them fit that sub 15% criteria, and they're either written up in the plug or they have high model rankings. And we get a couple of those combined. Now it's just like, oh, boom, I just got to check these guys off and add them to my leverage list and use them as my sub 10% pieces in my lineups.
Yep, you hit it right there, perfect. And so speaking of that, you talk about like a trifecta play where the model agrees with it, Niramata's plug recommends it, and there's line moves on it as well. I don't think there's anyone that fits all three to a T, but I'm thinking just Norlander, for example. I know he has the line move, but what do you think about him, Brian? Is that someone that can be considered a trifecta play?
It's funny because for those of you who are in the Discord, Athlete Ed, anytime there's a PGA event, because our model loves Norlander. The metrics that it looks at, it loves Norlander every time he's playing. And Athlete Ed in our Discord always calls him Nordic Track and tries to play him every single week. So when I saw this, I said, oh, shit, Ed must have got some money and made some moves at Pinnacle because Norlander got the highest money line move this week, or highest odds to win move this week. Now, Niramata didn't write him up, which doesn't, there's a billion golfers in the field, so we can't write up every single player. But Norlander, if we look at the model, actually ranks, and I'm pulling this back up on my side, but he ranks in the top 15 or so in the model with a really high OF index. And our projected ownership as of now has him at 9%. So most that, he checks 2 of the 3 boxes: line move, Niramata play, model play. That's good enough for me to get some leverage at 9%. He's the perfect criteria for that, for our GPP lineups.
Yeah, now, we talk about some GPP lineups, and I know that you are a 150 maxer, but let's take it back a little bit. Maybe some single entry or maybe some 3-entry strat. Could Norlander be a guy that you could fit in, and like a single entry or maybe even a 3 max?
Yeah, so again, the lineup strategy still holds true. We're looking for 2 high-owned guys, 1 to 2, and 4 to 5, not terrible plays, but definitely overlooked plays. And for me, if I'm making a single lineup, I definitely want some conviction on those high-owned guys, right? So if we look here, I think both Hovland and Molinari are high-owned plays, right? Hovland's on this list, right, Moose, for the line moves, I think?
Let's see here.
Yeah, he's at the very bottom there, 7%.
Yep.
So Hovland's going to be one of the highest-owned golfers in the field. He does get the line move. He's the number one ranked golfer in our model this week. So Hovland's a great high-owned piece. Molinari is a guy that Niramata wrote up. So maybe those are the 2 guys you start your lineup with as far as high-owned. Now, trying to pick these sub 10% guys, looking towards the model, looking towards these line moves, looking towards Nero's plays. All you have to do is pick 4 of those guys that stand out to you for one reason or the other. Because really, Moose, I talk about this a lot, especially in sports like this. MMA is another one. Just give me a reason. Give me a reason to play a guy that's 5 to 10% owned, right? MMA, I'm looking for an underdog or a favorite. Just find me one reason that someone might be overlooking or not thinking about. PGA, give me one reason to play a 5 to 10% owned golfer. Line move at Pinnacle, check. We know historically those are profitable moves. Niramata, a winning PGA DFS player, which is rare to find, likes this guy. Boom, that's a reason. Our model, which is back tested with 50+ metrics, likes this guy. Boom, that's another reason for me. So if I can just find one of those reasons, it's great. But if I can find 2, like we were talking about, those are the guys that I can easily fit in as my sub 10% guys. And I think I gave you a list, and we looked at it. There's a bunch of guys that check 2 of those 3 boxes.
Yeah, and I love how you didn't send over the pronunciation guide as well with it. So
That's part of the allure, Moose.
I
People will
know.
tune in to hear your pronunciations.
So if you're either here live or you're watching this replay, absolutely roast me if I get any of these wrong in the comments or the chat. So we already talked about Norlander, Brendan Todd, Tommy Fleetwood, Zalatoris, Molinari, Hoffman, Cockrick, Fitzpatrick, Hovland, Connors, and Homa. All are quote unquote around these trifecta plays. So either multiples of the model, the plug, or have some sort of pinnacle steam line move.
Yeah, so there's a good amount. Actually, if you're in the Discord, you notice that Niramata actually put 3 more moves late tonight. Now I'll read those names off for you right now. In addition to that list, Fitzpatrick got hit again. His move's now 18%, so that's solid. Sam Burns, Musa, I want to get your take on this. At the beginning of the week, his odds drifted the other way. It increased 6%, but now it's 20%, a 20% decrease in his odds. So something crazy would happen there, and then Fowler went from -5% to 9%. So 2 guys added, one increased a little more. But Burns, I guess early in the week people weren't on him, or for whatever reasons they got some information, and now from a 6% increase to a 20% decrease in his odds is wild.
That's definitely wild. I mean, it's not unheard of because you have so many golfers that are getting line moves. And if you're having 10 golfers that's moving 20%, someone's got to move the other way. And I guess he was one of them. And I guess once they hit a number, some group or whomever like that number, hit it, and then kind of just trickle through. Real quick, Joe has a question. He says, what's your thoughts on Spieth this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much going to get – I'm never really going to play Spieth, right? The only time I'm going to play him is if both Niramata writes him up and – the line moves are in his favor, and if he's lower owned for whatever reason, he's never going to pop on our model. Again, I'm not a PGA expert, right? I rely on Niramata for the golf stuff, but his game's not where it was a couple of years ago, and I know he's been around and in contention and leading in recent weekends, but has collapsed, and a lot of that's based on his putter. Kind of some amazing shots he's been hitting. His game as a whole hasn't been consistent. So for me, Nero didn't write him up. The model, of course, isn't on him, and he wasn't a line move. I'm not going to be playing Spieth much this week. But again, I know people like him, and he definitely defies most models. So if you want to play him, I wouldn't fault you for doing it.
Yeah, you pretty much hit it there on the head. You talked about where you would play him if he is low owned, and we kind of talked about some other low owned plays, but let's put some numbers to it. I guess I can bring up the model here, or maybe even the builder, and we can go from there. We can kind of look at some of these low owned plays, even maybe talk about, if you're using the lineup builder, how to incorporate some of these rules that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And I was talking to Niramata as we were discussing the lineup strategy. This was when the plug was put out yesterday, and he was explaining the lineup strategy ideas, and I was like, oh, for the builder, all you gotta do is this. And he was like, I love how your brain works. You immediately think how to turn that into a lineup builder rule, because I mean that's how it works for me. And fortunately, we can easily do that with the builder and get some of these low end guys in there automatically.
Yep. So because the builder is like a widescreen thing, I'm gonna go ahead and turn our faces off, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch scenes. And let's hope this actually works. So we will see you all back here in a little bit. Or our faces will, at least. So I'm up here on the lineup builder. You can check it out again at occupyfantasy.com. Nightbot was supposed to be with us tonight, but I think he took the night off. And so he would post a link. So Brian, if you could post a link to that, then that would be grateful. So people can go ahead and check that out. But I'm here. Again, no settings, no nothing. We just started off on DraftKings. And again, this is just the bare minimum. We can talk about just making like a maybe basic 20 max lineup. And if we wanted to do that 2-4 rule that we were talking about, Brian, we can quickly go to custom rules, add a custom rule, and what would be the how would we implement this?
All right, sounds good. Moose, I don't know if I can see it on my screen. I see the blank screen. I might be behind on you, but
nope, it's absolutely not. Nope, you're right. So there we go.
Wouldn't be a live stream without technical difficulties.
Yep, absolutely. So give it a couple seconds here. I absolutely love how when OBS, which is the streaming software we use, sometimes decides to, and when it updates, something always breaks, and this is
Literally
probably
every
just
time.
yes. So now you should see here on screen we have the lineup builder with the custom rules pop up, and I can just call this the 2-4 PGA rule.
Perfect. So what I would do, you'll probably have to do two different rules here. And what I would do is a maximum of two golfers over 15% ownership for the first rule.
Okay. So instead, it's probably better call, say, literally just max 2 over
Yeah.
15% ownership. And we'll save this rule.
And honestly, what I normally do really quick is I sort the builder by projected ownership just to kind of see where that tier drops off of that top ownership. Because sometimes it might be like, six guys 16% or more, and the next closest is 14 and 13. Then it's easy. Sometimes there's a couple guys over 20%. Sometimes there's a bunch of guys grouped in like the 14 to 16% range. So always try to look at the builder to see what where that break should be at. We wrote over 15%, but maybe it's a little lower, maybe it's a little higher some weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So we have that here. You can see the projected ownership here on screen. And then we'll go back to the rules. And so for part 2, I guess then we would do something of like a, what was it, max 4 under 15%?
I would do, so what I would probably do is min 4. Yeah, so this is where it gets tricky, right? I would probably do min 3 under 10% or under 11% probably. Because if you do min 4, you'll end up with 0 guys between 10 to 15% ownership.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Which I've done that before. It's been frustrating. We're like, why the hell I can't get any of this guy in the builder? And I'm really like, oh, because the rules are breaking them out. So I would do min 3 under 11%. And this should pretty much accomplish what we're trying to do.
Perfect. So if we go here and then we go to build lineups, we got to select some players first. So we'll do Hovland, and who was the other guy?
I see Ed's actually in the chat, and he says, any love for Norlander this week? Let's thumbs up him move since you got the top line move.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and thumbs up on Norlander as well. So we got Hovland, Norlander as well. So let's build these lineups now.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. And, I normally spend an hour or two building my golf lineups because, again, I am a perfectionist. I like to have my exposures exactly how I want to have them. And, again, not every build is going to be perfect, so you're going to have to go in and tweak afterwards. But, I'm just really excited overall this week, Moose, the fact that there are so many leverage plays to choose from that have justification from the betting markets.
Yep. Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. So I got it up here. Card view. I don't know if that's the best way to look at it or not, but we can always figure it out later. And yeah, this is kind of how it would be. Now, one of the things I noticed is we see a lot of lineups using the salary. Is that something that you would do in PGA where you kind of modify the salary? Do you leave some off, or do you not really care?
I'm not trying to leave too much salary. I'll just go 49K to 50K if it's on DraftKings. And that's pretty much it. Maybe if there's some random events where I'll go lower, but for the most part, I'll leave it that 1K spread.
Cool. Yeah. So again, that's a simple way to start off things. And if we look at exposures, it's hilarious because now Norlander with a complete lock button, 100% exposure.
Yeah. So so this is where the builder starts coming to play, and you're like, okay. Oh, also we have it on the lowest randomizer setting, right?
Yeah,
so it's gonna build it completely optimally. That's also why.
Yes. Okay. So we go high and we rerun it again. Yeah. Let's just see what kind of exposures that would give us.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting, looks like Ken has a question here. How about a winner, favorite play, fade, and guy you're playing we shouldn't?
Yeah, I always love this question for golf, right? Because it's such so many guys to choose from. So for winner, I will say Hovland since he tops the model and got the line move. So Victor Hovland for me there. Favorite play is probably. So I'm looking because it's going to be a leverage guy for me. Obviously, my favorite play. Norlander is pretty close, or Corey Connors. One of those two guys I think is my favorite play. Fade is going to be. Ooh, buddy, this is a tough one. Probably Patrick Reed. There's some events where I really do want to play him, but this isn't one of those weeks. So Patrick Reed, I think, is the guy to fade. And guy that I'm playing that you shouldn't is pretty much every week. Eric Van Rooyen, EVR, always near the top of the model. Dude's very hit or miss. Misses more often than he hits. And I can't, in good conscience, recommend you play him.
Yeah, EVR is definitely not EVR season. I'll tell you that.
Definitely mine. His nickname should be minus EVR.
Yes, that would be great. So then again, he comes back 80% Norlander, 55% Homa, Varner 45, and let's just take a look at one of these lineups. The very first lineup that it brings up here, and you see Norlander, Homa, Hoffman, Zalatoris, Connors, Hovland, and so let me ask you this, Brian. Now that we have a lineup, and I think it would be very tough. Well, I would say it's very tough to do it for 150, but if you're doing 20, definitely want to take a look through each of these ones and see if there's anything that's off on, or if you need to modify it at all. And so if we have a lineup like this, what's something that you would be looking for to modify, if anything at all in this one?
Yeah, I would just go through and just double check the rule we made, right? So does it fit the lineup construction this week? So, Norlander, we have, I'm just looking at projected ownership here. So Norlander, 9%. That fits the leverage play. Homa, 8%, 9% leverage play. Hoffman, 8%. Zalatoris, he's 18%. That counts as our high-owned guy. Connors is one of those mid-owned guys, 11%. That's fine. And then Hovland, top of the board, 22%. So I think the builder fit this perfectly. We have, 5 line move plays in this particular lineup.
I was gonna say this lineup is I hate to say it, but it might be some gas. So
this lineup is pretty fire, dude. I'm playing some single injury. I might have to take a look at this lineup because this is a damn good one. And now you got to remember, the one thing I will say here is, the optimizer, the lineup builder, uses the Occupy model rankings, and there are some guys based on math that aren't good plays, but the betting markets or Nirmata see something that the model doesn't pick up on. So for those guys, and for instance, a guy that fits that bill that Nero likes him, or the betting markets like him. I think probably the best example of that this week, Moose, is Molinari, who is going to be 16% projected ownership. Nirmata wrote him up in the plug, and he has a line move, but he played really poorly in the spring and the summer last year, which is how far back the model goes for some metrics, and he has a really low OF index. So we might have to go into custom projections and bump up his OF index to kind of account for the non-model factors.
Yeah, and that was actually gonna be one of my next questions. Is how I build lineups is if I'm using the builder, I'll actually just give people like a 5 to 10% boost if they are written up by Nirmata or if they have these big line moves. And so I'm glad we were able to bring that up. So let's look at him. What was his name again?
So Molinari, and he's like we have to give him more than a 5 or 10% boost just because his OF index is so low.
So what do you want to change it to?
So what I'd like to do is I'll look at I would sort by salary. He's 8,700 on DraftKings. I would look at other guys in that range, see what their OF index is, and at least get it comparable to them. And again, we're going against the math here, but there are a lot of reasons why he should probably be higher ranked.
Cool. So I went ahead and I did the slider filter. So for 8,500 to 9,000, you're seeing people here between Zalatar's 82, Homa 70, 40, 51, and Tommy is definitely not Tommy season. It's 16.
And so he's the other guy, right? Tommy's definitely he was wrote up in the plug, got a line move. So those two guys, they're no worse plays than Zalatoris, and they got two of the three trifecta ratings, right? The plug boost and the line move boost. So I would get them close to Zalatoris' number.
Yeah. So if we just do I don't know, let's just give them both 80.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's great. And you know what? We'll even give Molinari a thumbs up too, because he was written in the plug. Cool. So then now, if we go ahead and just rerun those lineups,
you have to make sure you have the custom projections checked as well.
Yeah.
If not, we'll get immediately back to the model ratings.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and change that. And did it? Yep, it changed it. All right, cool. So let me just go ahead and update that one more time.
See, and we got about 5 minutes left here. So while we're waiting for this to run and see this final build, go ahead and click that subscribe button below the video if you're not subscribed already. That way you get notified when we do all of these YouTube live streams. We're going to try to do these PGA events more often, maybe get Nirmata on one of these,
Yeah.
and see if we can get the legend himself on here. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Any final questions, hop in the chat, or you can always go to the Discord, occupyfantasy.com/Discord to ask us questions.
Yep. Perfect. And so we went ahead and ran that, and I'm actually curious. Yeah, still stuck. Sounds a lock Norlander, very, very much so. But we see here at Molinari now 25% exposure in the 20 lineups that we built, which does give us leverage over the field based off its projected ownership.
Yep, absolutely. And what I would do next, we don't have time to do this, Moose, but what I would do, I would write down my list of core guys, right? If I'm building 20 or 150 lineups, right? Those guys that hit 2 of the 3 criteria that are low owned. Norlander, sorry, I'm gonna put my list up here. Norlander, Todd, Wallace, Noren, Fleetwood, Clark, like all these guys that had line moves or were in the plug and are sub 10%, I would give them minimum exposures of 25, 35%. Make another rule, call them like my core or something, and minimum 2 of those guys in every lineup. That way, my lineups are flooded with these core plays, and if my core goes off or a couple of those guys go off, I have them in enough lineups that hopefully I can get a good enough combination to get to the top of the leaderboard.
It's a very solid strategy there. And something I've also done is using the slate groups. So if we go back to the multi-build tab, and there's been some times when I was like, all right, should I have this core or this core? Kind of 50-50 on how I want to go. I actually just made slate groups with like 3 different cores that I wanted. And eventually I ended up going with one to say, okay, I think these 5 golfers will be my core, but in group 2, these completely 5 different golfers are in my core. So I can kind of get an aspect on if I do these guys, if I do those guys, what happens. So again, something else you can check out with too.
Yeah, and if you're a psychopath and you build 300 lineups for the various GPPs or leagues or whatever you're playing, you can do 2 different cores and 2 different lineup builds. So I do like that as well.
Nice. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it all back full circle, bring our faces back on screen here. Cool. Here we are. Perfect. Giving the old peace sign. So perfect. So Brian, couple minutes left. I'll let you take us out of here. Any last lingering thoughts or anything else you want to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, PGA is an uncomfortable sport. It's also just one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult to predict. I think NASCAR may be a close second. But embrace the uncertainty and embrace the volatility of the sport. It's uncomfortable to have 4 guys sub 10% owned in your lineup, right? They're low owned for a reason, but there's also reasons to play them. And the betting markets show us that there are plenty of reasons to play many guys that aren't at the top of the ownership or salary ranges. So just embrace it. Play 3, 4, 5 guys that's sub 12, 11% range, and pray they get to the top. I guess first of all, pray they make the cut. But then secondly, pray that they have a good weekend, because those are the guys that really win you GPPs. Those are the guys that win you the tournaments. It's always nice when a Hovland or someone wins the tournament, but that's not how you win PGA DFS GPPs.
Yeah, I was saying, if you're not absolutely sweating a 5% guy you have 80% exposure to making the cut, he needs like 3 consecutive birdies. You're not playing DFS, right?
You best believe that if you have that kind of leverage, it will be a cut sweat no matter what. It doesn't matter what the event is, the situation, that dude's going to need some putts on Friday afternoon.
Absolutely. So, Brian, thank you for joining us. Everyone that's here watching, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification to be notified of when we upload new videos or go live. Hopefully have something very special for you next week. Still in the mixing of that and related to PGA. But we'll tell you guys more about it when the time comes. But until next time, Moose and Brian here from Occupy. Have a good one.
Peace.